Hey guys, what's up? KillJoy Jake here, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Today we are talking about the top 10 horror films from 2020. I have been waiting to do this video all year, and I'm very excited to start talking about my top 10 list. But before I get into that, I'm gonna need you guys to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. Also, if you want to help this channel grow even more, you can support me on Patreon. There'll be a link in the description below. Become a supporter today for a whole bunch of added benefits, even some brand new stickers. Alright, now let's get into it.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Well, I'm Pennywise. Can you see the clown?
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast!
You son of a...
God, don't do that.
But sometimes that is better.
So starting off this list at number 10 is The Hunt. The Hunt was one of the last films we kind of got before the pandemic hit. I unfortunately was unable to see it in theaters when it was in theaters. It was right around the time of Invisible Man though, and like when Tiger King was really popping. Can you believe that was this year? This film was delayed so many times though, for a whole bunch of different reasons besides COVID. I guess when they were supposed to release it, like a real life shooting actually happened, which really sucked, so they thought it would be pretty distasteful to release it around the same time, which I agree with. Nonetheless though, this is a pretty epic horror film, but it also struck a lot of controversy because of all the political satire in the movie. But honestly, it's a very tame and harmless film. Not only does it make fun of both sides equally, it doesn't do it in a way that seems harsh and doesn't really point the finger at one side or the other as being the bad guy. Sure, it's making fun of everybody on the political spectrum, but it's all for fun. And no matter where you fall on the political spectrum, you'll probably enjoy this film. Coming in 9th place is The Babysitter Killer Queen. Now this film came out of nowhere for me. I found out it was even coming out in early August. I was like, holy crap, I gotta make a video about this like right now. And my video on the trailer for this movie is one of my most viewed videos at the moment. So thank you all for that. I really enjoyed this movie. I don't think it was better than the first one. Kinda just spoiled my versus video about it. The biggest problem about this film though is that Samara Weaving is only in it for the last 10 minutes, and she was a big part of why I loved that original so much. I did really like the addition of Jenna Ortega. Her character was absolutely wonderful and hilarious. And I'm so excited to see her in Scream 5. Oh, and also, if we're talking about negatives, Bella Thorne has way too much screen time. Y'all already know I don't like her and they decided to make her role bigger in the sequel? Come on, Hollywood! What are you doing? Overall, the second film was fun and was kind of leading into another film happening sometime soon, which I definitely would not be against. Coming in 8th place is The Dark and the Wicked, a film that might have fell under the radar for all of you. It's the latest film from Brian Bertino, who also made The Strangers, which is kind of a cult classic nowadays. Highly recommend both of these films if you haven't seen them. The Dark and the Wicked has one of the most horrifying sequences I have ever seen on film before. The old lady floating in the window, there's something about that just really messed me up psychologically, really reminded me of Salem's Lot. Very great scare sequences in this film, but unfortunately one of the big things that's lacking is a cohesive plot. Nothing really happens in this movie, it kind of just serves as a jump scare delivery system, which was really entertaining but kind of lackluster if you're looking for something way deeper. Coming in 7th place is #Alive or Alone. This is one of those weird instances where the American version of a movie isn't the most popular version, which I think is fantastic. Now the reason #Alive was so popular was 1, because it's on Netflix, and 2, because the South Korean company that put out this film actually got it out before the original film technically. So if you're confused by that, there is a film called Alone that just came out maybe like 2 months ago, a little after #Alive was put on Netflix, and that's technically the original movie. Although both versions are kind of different and stand on their own, I think #Alive is way better. And the big thing there between the two movies, in the American one it kind of just ends right in the middle. Also the relationship between the two main characters is kind of forced. If two characters don't have to have a romance, then they don't have to. Why does that have to be such a big thing in movies? I like how in #Alive both of the characters are just survivors. They are like just trying to make it to the end of this, trying to get out of this crappy situation. And just because they're male and female doesn't mean they have to be boning each other. I will say the ending of #Alive is like a little Deus Ex Machina, which I'm also not a fan of, but these characters deserved a happy ending. And it's better than just ending your film right in the middle of things. I like when endings are either good, bad, or ambiguous, meaning you can interpret what happened to the characters for yourself. But overall, both of these films are very enjoyable. I would highly recommend both of them. And if you're a fan of Train to Busan and Peninsula, you're gonna love #Alive. Coming in 6th place is The Lodge. Now technically this is a 2019 film, but American audiences didn't get to see it until February. So screw it, I'm putting it on this list. The Lodge is a really cool psychological and real twist on what is usually a paranormal kind of movie. If you just watched the first 2 acts of this film, you probably wouldn't wouldn't care for it too much, but it's because of that twist in the third act that makes this movie so much more than just a Hereditary knockoff. Also, if you're wondering why I said Hereditary ripoff, if you haven't seen the movie, this thing rips off a lot of the scenes, like almost directly. The dollhouse scenes, come on, where else did you get that from? But this movie does stand on its own, has a really cool twist ending, which I'm not gonna spoil for you if you didn't see it. There's really no humor or anything here, it is just a bleak and dark masterpiece. So if you're looking for psychological trauma, this is the movie for you. Also, the kid from It is in this movie, and no, I'm not talking about Finn Wolfhard for once. Coming in 5th place is Host. And no, not The Host, because I think a movie called that also came out this year. I don't know, I didn't see it. You can't expect me to watch every horror movie that came out this year, guys. Although I would love to, I just don't have the time. Host, on the other hand, was definitely worth watching. Probably the scariest film of the year. Coming in at only 60 minutes, this film delivers an excellent jump scare right at the end of this movie that made me shit my pants. So during my break in August, I went on a road trip with my buddy and I watched this film in the car because I knew I was going to be talking about it at some point. I wanted to do a whole video on it, but I just didn't have time. Also, I was in the middle of Kansas when I watched this movie, which is very far from where I live. I don't know if it deserves a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it does something different with your usual, like, Paranormal Activity kind of stuff. Because let's be honest, this is very much in the same vein as those films. It's found footage, you got a whole bunch of jump scares. Most people would hear that and say, okay, I've seen this a million times. Come on, let's do something new, am I right? Host finds a way to do that, though. And most of this movie is practical effects, except for the legs hanging in the attic, which are very clearly CGI. Ugh. But man, that dude at the ending, holy shit. Watch Host if you want to poop your pants in a car driving through Kansas, though. I mean, just poop your pants. Did I say I pooped my pants? No, that definitely didn't happen. Coming in 4th place is Freaky. Honestly, Freaky subverted my expectations. I was really thinking this was gonna be another Happy Death Day kind of movie, like, okay, it's gonna be fun and there's gonna be some silly things that happen, I can't wait. I was genuinely scared at a couple points, and I'm not afraid to admit that. Not only does this movie deliver some scares, not a whole lot, it's mostly a comedy horror, not a horror comedy, but it's effing hilarious. What Christopher Landon is doing with the slasher genre right now is something that, in my opinion, has not been done since the mid-90s. Freaky deserves a lot more credit than it's due because it's taking this old subgenre and making it all new again. See, slashers aren't really scary anymore. We've seen people get murdered a million times and we're kind of desensitized to it. Now when we watch the Friday the 13th sequels, we're just kind of laughing at Jason. And rooting for him, if you're crazy like I am, that is. But instead of using meta humor, Christopher Landon has used modern humor and kind of infused that with the slasher genre. He recognizes the fact that we're laughing at all this and has made a movie all about that. Very similar to Scream. But I appreciate it, I'm here for it. If this guy wants to keep pumping out these films, Happy Death Day 3, Freaky 2, and somehow get them in the same universe together, I'm all about that. There's been talks about it happening, I would love to make a video on it sometime soon. But Freaky is a must-see from this year, definitely check it out if you haven't. Moving on to another film that totally blew my expectations out of the water, Possessor. Oh my god, this film was so good. I'm a huge David Cronenberg fan, I've been really getting into his movies this year. That was one of the directors I was like, okay, I gotta see everything this guy's made. And I watched a lot of his early films before going into Possessor, because this was done by his son, Brandon. So I'm thinking, you know, they have similar styles, but Brandon's style is still like very raw. You know, it reminds me of early Cronenberg before he got all commercial with his stuff and started doing remakes. Not to say that The Fly is bad, but it's just not as raw as his other films are. Like, I did this video a while ago, it didn't get a lot of views, but I don't really care. It was a video that meant a lot to me. But Possessor is insane. It's one of those like mindfuck movies that is gonna mess with you for a while. It also kind of has an ambiguous ending. If you've seen it, you kind of know what I'm talking about. But there's a lot of theories to be had with this film. It's very open-ended. You can interpret very different things from this movie. And that's what I love so much about it. Also, the gore is some of the most disgusting I've ever seen in a movie. Unbelievably visceral. And does Sean Bean die? I'll let you find out when you watch it. I'm trying to be as spoiler-free as possible in case you haven't seen some of these movies. But definitely check out Possessor. I gotta buy it on 4K. It's going in my collection. That's how good this one is. Also, I want to point out something before I move on. This top 3 is super interchangeable. This is a hard list to make. There were some really great films this year, along with a lot of the bad ones. But coming in 2nd place is The Invisible Man. Now, honestly, out of everything in this list, this is the film that scared me the most. This film is psychological terror at its best. I love that this is a new take on a film from the 30s. To take an almost archaic idea and make it new again is pretty brilliant. It's a suit instead of like a potion or whatever the hell it is in the original, but definitely one of the best films from this year just in general. Not even horror movies, this was one of the best films of the year. And even if you like gore, you're gonna like this film. There's only a couple scenes where you get like a lot of blood, but when it happens, it's very, very effective. And effing shocking. Oh my god, that one scene with the knife, you know what I'm talking about if you've seen it. This movie really feeds into your paranoia though, so if you're kind of a paranoid person, you might want to skip this one. It was almost a little too much for me. But my number one pick, the best horror film of the year, in my opinion, you might have thought something else on this list was better, and that's fine. Opinions are like buttholes, we all have one. But my number one pick is Peninsula, a sequel that I think almost tops its original. I remember in my Versus video I said, oh, Peninsula's way better than Train to Busan, totally blew it out of the water. I think they're about even now. After seeing both films again recently, I think Train to Busan is better, but Peninsula is insanely good at the same time though. Sure, it steals the plotline from Escape from New York, but is that such a bad thing? Escape from New York is a fantastic movie, and this film is essentially just Escape from New York, but with zombies. How do you make something better? You add zombies to it, we all know that. This film captures that same emotional aspect that Train to Busan has. You care about these characters so much. I had tears running down my face in an empty theater. It was a horrible situation. You wouldn't have wanted to see it. See, I saw this movie in a basement of a movie theater, like in this very tiny, compact little fucking theater. There was nobody else that came to see it. I was alone in a dark room watching a horrifying zombie movie. I had my legs up on the chair like this, and I'm just like looking around the whole time. I was so scared. It was hilarious. I highly recommend Peninsula. It's a really scary movie. You'll be unbelievably invested in these characters, and you'll probably have tears streaming down your face just like I did. It's a stew of a movie. Like, it's got horror aspects to it, it's got action, comedy, scenes where you start to cry, whatever you want to call those. A great movie for everybody. I think anyone can get into this movie, really, unless you don't like reading subtitles. But I would definitely recommend this movie. Go check it out. So what do you guys think of my top 10 list for 2020? I kind of wish this list would have looked a lot different because we were supposed to get a whole bunch of different releases this year. That's just gonna make next year a whole lot better. Leave your top 10 list in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching my video on the top 10 horror films of 2020. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror contents. Please support me on Patreon. I can make a whole bunch more videos if you do. Even $1 a month goes a long way, so please consider that. Link in description. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at KillJoyJake1 and on Instagram at KillJoy_Jake. I just wanted to say Happy New Year to everybody and thank you for supporting me in 2020. I gained 2,000 subscribers this year and it's honestly felt like a dream come true. So thank you guys so much for supporting me. And as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all, in 2021.